promises are yes and amen. Beautiful Savior, you have brought me here. You pulled me from the ashes. You have broken every curse. And blessed Redeemer, you have set this captive free. Lord, I can't help but sing. Faithful you are, faithful forever.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Elevation Church. Stand with us as we worship the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. It's going to be a great morning. Here in your life we find what makes us come alive, a sacrifice of praise. A city on a hill, surrender to your will, your glory on display. Your glory on display. Awesome in this place. Jesus, you are awesome in this place. Worthy to be praised. Jesus, you are worthy to be praised. You will be praised. to be praised. Jesus, you are worthy to be praised. You will be praised. You will be praised. You will be praised. You will be praised. Thank you, Jesus. We love you, Jesus. When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, oh, I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer has a place to hide. I am not a captive to the lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. Oh, I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Standing in your love. Standing in your love. There's power. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Thank you, Jesus. We love you, Lord. You're so good to us, God. We're so thankful that you overcome, that you fight our battles for us, that you fight our battles alongside of us. Lord, that your word says that you go out before us to pave the way, but you are also with us, and that you will never leave us, you'll never forsake us. God, we love you and we thank you for loving us, God. This is how I fight my battles. 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 It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, this is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, this is how I fight my battles. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. I was thinking this morning about being surrounded and what that really looks like, and I envisioned jumping in a pool and going under the water. Some of us love that. I do. Some of us think that that's like the worst thing ever. Anna's not a big fan of that. But we can feel like that in life sometimes, where you just jump in and or you feel like everything has surrounded you, and like all these things in our life, the weights of the world. You know, this world can be tough at times. People can be tough at times. We're hard on ourselves, probably more often than not, and way more often than we should be. But just thinking about this chorus, and that we may feel surrounded, but we're surrounded by the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Literally, the creator of the entire universe is with us. It says in Deuteronomy that the Lord goes before us. He paves the way in front of us, but he also is with us. And I just think about that God literally is surrounding us. So when you're in that pool of water up above your head, it's the Lord is like that, and he's also in us, working through us. So I just want to sing through that one more time, and I just want you to just proclaim that over your life. Proclaim that freedom, that the Lord is with us, may look like we're surrounded, but nothing can touch us. Nothing can truly harm us when we know Jesus. He truly has us wrapped in his arms. So it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Proclaim that over your life. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you, Jesus. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. Thank you, Lord. This is how I fight my battles.
Aren't you glad that we have the opportunity to come in here and worship God? And as we're singing, this is how I fight my battles. For many of you, you know that when you go into a moment, into a time of worship, even right now, that when you move into that moment and that time in worship, that his presence begins to surround us. And whatever we're dealing with in life seems so minimal. Even though it may be overwhelming, it's reduced in comparison to the God that we worship. And it's a great privilege and a freedom that we can gather together and pray and worship like we are today. And I think about around our planet, around this globe, there are people who don't experience the freedom that we experience today. They're not able to gather publicly like we are. In fact, some of them are under heavy persecution to the point of harm and death because of their commitment to worship and to follow Jesus. Some of those are people that are introduced to Christ through a mission effort somewhere in our world. Others are workers, international workers, who will go into places that the place can't even be announced because of the danger it could bring to them. And they'll go there and share the gospel of Jesus. And so today, around the world, there are people, churches just like we are today, that are gathering and they're praying for the persecuted church. And so we're going to do that. Matt Simon's going to come share just for a few moments as we're in this time of worship about this need and the way that we can pray today. And he's going to lead us in prayer.
Good morning. Keep playing if you want. We have a short video we're going to watch here in just a minute, but I just wanted to talk real quick and intro the video. Around the world today, churches will be praying for the dozens and dozens of countries where it's not legal or it's not culturally accepted to be a Christian. And a lot of times these brothers and sisters risk everything to follow Christ. And in America, we have so many freedoms. We can decide what color shirt we're going to wear at church, where we're going after eat, what kind of patch we're going to play on the keyboard, how loud the mic is supposed to be. We have all these things, and those aren't bad things, but a lot of people around the world, they can't even show up to church. And there's a lot of resources to get involved and to educate yourself on it. The number one thing that believers who are persecuted are asking for is for prayer. So this is just a handful off my shelf. These are books. They're not like a phone. They're made out of paper, but they have a lot of great information. They're kind of old-fashioned, but I'll be around after the service. If you want more information, I can direct you to a few resources that are easy to get a hold of. You can educate yourself about these countries and these places around the world that really need our prayers and need our support. So we're going to watch a quick video, I think, and then we're going to have a quick prayer. this week, there was an attack on the Coptic Christians in Egypt. There were over 30 Christians that were attacked, over a dozen people killed by jihadi fundamentalists. In Pakistan, you may have actually seen this on the news. There was a lady who was on trial for blasphemy, and she was actually acquitted. She was found innocent, which is very, very rare, which is amazing. But a large part of the country was essentially under martial law. And the reason they were under martial law is because the threat of violence and the protesting in the streets and the mob mentality against Christianity was so real because of this one person was allowed the freedom to go free. So this is a very real thing for Christians all over the world, and it has been for 2 millennia now, and it's still very real today. So if you'd bow your heads, we're just going to pray a little bit. God, we thank you for who you are, and there are times we don't understand when and where we're in certain situations, or when others of your children are in those situations. And God, we just pray that we would not take for granted all the resources, all the flexibility, all the freedom we have being in this place, being in this land, and that we would be convicted to pray for and to support in other ways our brothers and sisters around the world who don't have those freedoms, who can't worship you openly without fear of violence or fear of retribution. God, and we just ask that you would protect them, that you would give them comfort, that you would give them wisdom, that you would help them in all of the thousands and thousands of unique situations that exist every day around the world, that you would help them to know that whether they're prisoners in a communist prison camp, or whether they live in a country that's ruled by laws that despise you, and where it's illegal for your name to even be mentioned, God. We just pray that you would come as the healer to them, to heal their hearts, to heal their physical needs, that you would send your spirit of wisdom to them, so that they would be able to hear your voice and know in these situations what they should do to honor you, God, and to make it through the days of their very, very, very hard existence. We just lift them up before you, Lord, and again ask that you would just convict us to be thankful, to be people with grateful hearts for everything that we have here, and that your presence would just continue to go forth through all the different nations, through all different people groups all over the world, and that you would be lifted up and glorified. We join around the world today with our brothers and sisters all over the world, many tongues, many tribes, all lifting up your name, and we just worship you, Jesus.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. And through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. that seal the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. The morning
that seal the promise.
your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus knows is the
We love you, Jesus.
Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its claim on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope.
Amen. Isn't it good to worship together? Hey, can we thank the team for serving us so well? They get here at like 6:30 or 7 in the morning to practice, so time change or not, that's early. Can we? Thank you so much. Hey, before you sit down, could you turn to somebody and just greet them? Well, we have At the Movies starting this week, so you are in for a treat. But before we get started in that, just wanted to draw your attention to a couple things inside your talk notes. There's a communication card that looks like that. Really appreciate you filling that out, and when the ushers come forward in a moment, when we take our tithes and offerings, you can drop that in there. If you're a guest with us today, though, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We consider you a VIP, and you maybe noticed out in the lobby in the corner there's a VIP table. And so with this communication card, instead of dropping it in the offering when that comes by, if you wouldn't mind holding on to that, and after the service, if you take it out there, we have a gift that we'd love to give you and just make your friendship and get to know you a little bit. You may have noticed the big trailer that's been out in the parking lot. We've announced this the last several weeks, that we are taking donations to help raise some money for taking donations for items to be auctioned to raise money for Blue Tassel Farms. And we have Tim McNamee here who runs that. And Tim's just going to make one more quick announcement because this is the last week for receiving those donations.
Thank you, Chad. I've been out collecting donations out front this morning and everything. We got a lot of quality donations that came in already, even some jewelry, a couple of bags of jewelry. So we want your jewelry. We'll take it from you today, actually, if you would just release it, all right? So see me after. Look at, she's taking her earrings off. Oh, you done committed, lady. You're in. But, man, I tell you, we're so grateful. We're trying to raise money to build our third and final cabin that will be open in the spring so that we can be at full capacity to have inner-city retreats for kids and for the homeless. We did about 6 retreats this last year, and we're just one cabin short of being able to be full. So that's what all this money will go for. It'll be auctioned off at Christie's in the month of November. So this is the last day for the trailer. However, we're extending your giving through the month of November. It's the giving month, so all you have to do is contact us. You can get our information through the church. If you have just jewelry like this, you can bring it to the church, and we'll pick it up every Wednesday. But we're going to extend it all the way through the month of November. Now, here's what God's trying to do. I'm telling you, he's trying to do something big. Out there this morning, this is what we got. We got 2 seats to a Harley, 2 side pipes to a Harley, 2 saddlebags, and 2 fenders. There's only one thing missing. Who's got the Harley? There's somebody in here, but we appreciate so much. And we will come and get anything that you have. We have a car trailer. If you have a car to donate, even if it doesn't run, we will come pick it up. No matter what you have, we'll come pick it up. You just need to get a hold of us. God bless you, and thank you again.
Thank you, Tim. Carolyn Henderson is our children's ministry pastor and has an announcement also.
Hi, I actually have just 2 quick things I want to mention. First of all, you and your family are invited to join us tonight for Treasure Hunt. It is a family event tonight at 6:30. We're going to have stations, we're going to have snacks, we're going to have prizes. It's going to be lots of fun. So bring your grandkids, bring your kids, pick up some random neighborhood kids and just bring them on in. It's going to be a great time. But I also wanted to take just a few minutes and talk to you about something that's coming up very quickly in the month of December, and that is Christmas. Okay? So every year, kids back there, we put together a Christmas musical, and we have been working for the past month on getting that ready, and we are only missing one thing, and that is your kids. All right, we have a great group back there working, and if your child has not been coming on Wednesday nights at 7, I want to encourage you to just take time and bring them here at 7, because every night we practice a song, and then we break down what the meaning of Christmas really is, and really are teaching these kids the importance of the birth of Jesus and the significance of that. Not only is this a great opportunity for your kid, because every kid deserves to be in a Christmas play, right? They should deserve that chance, but it's also a great ministry opportunity, because on December 2nd, we are going to put all these adorable children up here, and we are going to just watch them show us what they have been working so hard on. But more importantly than that, they are going to be presenting the message and gospel of Jesus in a way that a lot of people are very open to. If you have family, friends, or relatives who you have been wanting to come to church, but they just say, oh, no, that's not for me. I tell you what, you tell them that your kid's going to be on stage and they have been working so hard, you are going to get them here, because nobody can say no to a cute little face, right? So these kids are working so hard, but it's also a great opportunity for you to reach out to those people who you really want to see Jesus move in their lives and get them to experience a Christmas morning, Christmas Sunday here, where they're going to hear some adorable children present the most powerful message in the history of the world, and that is the birth of Jesus and the hope that he gives us. So I want to encourage you, Wednesday nights at 7, to make sure your child is here. This is for kids age 3 and potty trained up through 5th grade, okay? Everybody gets involved. It's chaotic, and it's awesome, and it's the most fun thing I do all year, besides VBS. So I just really want to encourage you to take that time and make it a priority to have your kids invest time into doing this Christmas play. So I really am looking forward to what's going to happen and the life change that God is going to do through these kids, even at this young age. So I hope to see you all this Wednesday night at 7.
Thank you, Carolyn. And we just ask, if you do pick up any random kids for the treasure hunt tonight, just make sure their parents know. Well, I'm going to invite the ushers now to come forward. We're going to receive our tithes and offerings. And will you bow your hearts with me, and let's ask God's blessing on this. Father, thank you for all that you give us, and for a chance to give you a token of our appreciation with our tithes and our offerings. And we ask your blessing on them, and that you'd help us to be wise stewards of what you work through us and what we're able to accomplish and witness as a community for what you do through us. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen.
Do or do not? Please don't try. It's 106 miles to Chicago. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Toto? I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
It was a sin to kill a mockingbird. Wax on, wax off. We're sending you back to the future.
Yeah, that just happened. Series is at the movies. That was a clip from, in fact, the opening scene of the movie Quiet Place. And I hope that's not the most exciting, thrilling thing that happens this morning for you. We're going to dive into the Word. This series at the movies, the theme that we're landing on each week is the idea of pursuing. And what are we pursuing? And I believe it's going to be something that's going to be life-changing for many of you. In Philippians chapter 3, and by the way, I'm Pastor Tony, and I am like pumped about being here this morning in the second service preaching, and I hope that you're ready to grab something. So, take your notes out, and we'll jump in. I just was talking, there's 11 people from Elevation yesterday that ran in the Monumental Marathon for World Vision to raise clean drinking water. And together with those that did this in the city, I think it's around $971,000, almost $1 million, probably all said and done. It'll come in over $1 million for our city that ran yesterday to raise funds to provide clean drinking water for kids and people in Africa. That happens for a lifetime. Isn't that incredible? That's exciting. So I know they're sore today from walking and running, but let them know you appreciate it. We're going to read in Philippians chapter 3. It's a very familiar verse, and we'll come back to it each week, but one that maybe, because I'm reading from the Passion Translation, it's going to sound a little different, but I love the way it reads, and I believe that it's going to be a place for us to kind of just throw our stake down throughout this series. Paul wrote, and he said, I admit that I haven't yet acquired the absolute fullness that I am pursuing, but I run with passion into his abundance so that I may reach the purpose that Jesus Christ has called me to fulfill and wants me to discover. Don't you like that? I mean, that's what I want to be my desire and my prayer. How about you? Anybody with me say yes? Yeah, we want that. And as I watch this clip from this movie, sometimes I think that is a picture of all of us. And by the way, let me give you a little description. First of all, let me say this. As we show these movie clips, I don't endorse everything that happens in these movies, but there is some truth that we can grab. And certainly here, I think we see a picture of a lot of us, and maybe all of us at some times in our life, when the thing that is so important to us is threatened. And we run in heavy pursuit so that we can protect what's important. Anybody ever been there? Maybe you're there right now. Maybe you feel like you are pushing and pressing with all the passion you got to pursue the important, and it seems so elusive that you're just about to grab it, but you're not there, and you don't want to see it be removed from your life. And I hope this morning that you get some insight and that you allow God to work in your life so that you can get that into the place that it should be. So the movie's about four. It's a sci-fi thriller. A family of four was a family of five. This is the opening scene of the movie. If you watch it, you get the same picture we do right now, right? Okay. If anybody, we all get the same picture. And little boy is gone. There are these enemy, alien, robot things, creatures. I don't know what they are. That's about the most you see of them, actually. And they hunt what they hear. Okay? So we've got to be very quiet, because if they hear something, that's what they're attracted to hunt. And a whole nother picture, but I think sometimes we look like that in the way that we are moving through our world as believers. Because there is an enemy. We realize that, don't we? You realize there's an enemy. There's an enemy of your soul that doesn't want you. Jesus said this. He identified him at one place as the thief in John 10:10, has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And so there is an enemy, but sometimes we don't take the rightful place that we have in Christ. We are more than conquerors, right? Come on, somebody. We're more than a conqueror. Overcomers. We're victorious through Christ Jesus. And so I'm not big on tiptoeing. I'm like, let's let God live through us the life that he desires, because I want to tell you the enemy is no match for him. Are you with me? Right. I'm going to tell you, put the enemy on the other side of the equation with God. He's always on the less than side. Right? And so in this movie, they're very quiet and they're trying to be protective. And so then you see that opening scene where the batteries are removed. He lets his son know. And then if you're wondering, yes, the girl can't hear. She's deaf. And so they move through, and then she gives him the toy and the battery back. It's harmless. She doesn't mean any harm. And what happens to a lot of us, and you might jot this down, is that in our life, we can lose sight of the important. We can lose sight of it. We can get so busy. We can get so taken into all of the stuff that's going on in life. We can let something else become more important so that the important is kind of shifted off into an entirely different place. Now, we have hindsight. We can look back at this and we could say, hey, Dad, if we could go back in time, and if this was real, right? we would say, hey, I don't know what the guy's name is. Is it John? The actor's name is John, right? I think, yeah. We say, hey, John, hey, Johnny, here's what you need to do. When you walk out of that place, before you walk out of that store, grab your son by the hand and walk with him. Don't let him trail back there. We'd say that, wouldn't we? We know what happens. We would say that. In our lives, if we look back, there's probably times when we say, oh, if I could go back, I would certainly do it different than the way that I did it because I really lost sight of what was important for a moment in my life. Anybody say yes to that? Yeah. And I can't do much about my past. I can give it to Jesus, but I can do something about right now. That's what we're going to talk about today, okay? So don't get caught up in guilt and shame and all this stuff that the enemy would like you to feel. Let's go forward. Anybody with me? Okay, so we lose sight of what's important, and then what can happen is our attention and our focus, and this is why it happens, is it gets fixed on the thing that's immediately before us, right? So we get something in front of us, and our focus is there. That's why I say this, keep Jesus in front of you all the time, right? But we get focused on something that seems important. It could be a career. Could be something that is incredibly exciting, that we're passionate about. Could be a hobby. Could be sports. Could be the thing that just gets your heart racing. And then it gets our attention. Doesn't even mean it has to be a bad thing, right? The dad here, he's leading. He's walking down the path. He just got his focus off of the important. And then what we can do is we can become unaware of the nuances that lead to intentional harm. See, the girl didn't mean anything bad. And the dad put the batteries right there. We would probably say, hey, Dad, put the batteries up high somewhere. Now that we know. And it's this way with your children. It can be this way in your marriage. It's in your spiritual life. What are the little nuances that you're unaware of right now? I tell parents, know who your kids' friends are. Right? Know what they're listening. Know what they're watching. You say, but well, I feel like I'm kind of getting into their life, and exactly. Get into their life. You are producing future adults. I'm praying this, that Elevation Church produces future adults that are going to be world changers. They're going to make a difference. And so if we're going to do that, and we're going to do it correctly, get into their world. Don't be bashful or shy about it. Get into their world. You're the parent. You're not just a friend. You don't just live, you're not roommates and you share the house with them. Get in their world. Know who they're talking to. Know who their best friends are. And I would say this, spend the time, because the next progression we see in this movie, and I'm just pulling this from here, is that most of us, when we're faced with losing the important, we'll drop everything to save it. Right? I don't know exactly, and I've watched this clip like 4 or 5 times, and I have seen the movie. I don't know exactly what happens to the kid that he's got, right? He's walking, he's holding it. It looks like he sets it down. Maybe he throws it down. I don't know. Because in that moment, he turns and he starts running. Because whatever was going on at that moment, I don't know how many steps, how many feet, how many yards, how many miles it was to get to the place they're going, but that doesn't matter at that moment. Because what's important is going to get the attention. And we'll drop everything to save it. And too many times, I listen to the stories, or I'm invited into the conversation of people who are spiritually in a place where Jesus isn't Lord of their life anymore, where the fresh current relationship that they once had, the fervent, passionate relationship. How many know what I'm talking about? When you're following Jesus and you're excited to open His Word, when you're following Jesus and you're excited to get here Sunday morning, you're early, you're out there, you got a cup of coffee, you're like smiling at everybody. You're like, you're like the Tigger. Everybody knows Tigger, right? And Winnie the Pooh. You're like, what are we going to do next? You're like bouncing on your tail. You're like, hey, yes, I want to do whatever. Yeah, we're pumped, we're excited. And the sad thing is that I get invited in the conversation sometimes when people have lost that. In the book of Revelation, it says that the idea of losing your first love, that passionate desire and affection that you had for Jesus, or it's in a marriage when someone says, hey, he or she is just disconnected, and I'm afraid I'm just this past week, last week and a half, somebody had came and shared a story about this was a guy and his wife, they'd become disconnected, and now he's doing everything to change and become someone that he had not been because he's willing to drop everything to save it. And in this movie, this is what can happen sometimes. This is the hard truth, is it is possible to wait too long and lose the important. That drops heavy, doesn't it? Yeah. When the little boy is taken and he's standing there, I think he falls to the ground. Your heart's, and from that point forward, I won't give the movie away for you. No spoiler alert today, okay? From that point forward, everything is from a different reference point, right? And I believe this, and I'm going to share from Genesis 14 today, that doesn't have to be the scenario that you face. It is possible to take action right now and make a difference. Did you hear me this morning? Yeah, it doesn't. Here's what I watched that movie, and it's a loss, and it's painful, and in some of your lives right now, there's loss going on, and it's painful. The thing that's important in your life is being threatened, and it's tough, and you're afraid you're going to lose it, but it's possible to take action right now and make a difference in that. That's good news. Are you with me? That's good news, that it is possible. Jesus didn't go to Calvary and win so that you could lose at life. Jesus didn't go through what he went through so that we could somehow meander through life and barely survive and lose the things that we believe are important and not have a fresh and current relationship with him. He didn't do that so that you could have that. I love to win. Anybody with me? If you know me and you're around me, I love to win. I can't stand. We were with staff. We were doing some games the other day, and I didn't win one of them. And I'm like just trying to keep my composure, but I'm just wanting to take the things and throw them up and say, "These games are like these games are stupid. I didn't win. What's wrong with this?" They were good games, by the way. They were good games, but I didn't win one of them. It doesn't make me happy to lose. And here's what they tell you when you're a kid. Here's what adults tell children. We tell them this. Winning is not everything. Because we want them to lose, because we know they're going to lose, right? They're going to lose sometimes. We want them to learn something from losing. Here's what I learned from losing. Losing is not everything. Nobody tells you that. Losing is not everything. Winning's a pretty big deal. Are you with me? Yeah. When the Olympics come, we got about another 2 years. And America sends our delegates, the folks that are going to compete in the Olympics. We don't say, oh, anybody watch the Olympics? I like watching them. I mean, I get caught up in it. I'm watching them, and then I'm rooting for anybody that's good, but I'm really rooting for the Americans and I want to see the Americans get gold, right? Bronze. We don't want bronze. Are you with me? We want gold. Go for the gold. But here's what we definitely don't. We don't want 6th or 7th place. We're like, oh, our guy got 7th place. There's no anthem. There's no standing up in front of everyone and everybody like, oh, we're so in love with this guy. We're so in love with this girl, what they did, the accomplishment. Nobody's doing that because winning's a pretty big deal. Jesus won at Calvary so that you could win at a relationship with God. And so the very things that you've been entrusted with, your spouse, your children, your purity single folks, that it could be attained and you could win. I believe that this morning. Yes, and here's the deal. In Genesis 14, the whole chapter is great. You should read it this week. It's one of those power-packed chapters in the Bible. In Genesis has several of them. This is one of them. And I'll pick it up in verse number 10 of chapter 14. I'll give you a backstory. There are some kings that have been, kingdoms that have been dominant, and they have ruled over some smaller, less powerful kingdoms for a while, and finally they say in the 12th year, they say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to quit sending you money. We're not going to continue to do this. And so these kings in the 13th year, they come, and they're going to say, oh, yes, you are. And they do that, and they take them captive again. And it's 4 kings against 5. And it says in verse 10, now the valley of Siddim was full of asphalt pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. So you get this picture. They've drawn their battle lines. They're there on fighting. And some of them there's these tar pits. Some of them have fallen into those. Some of them went to the mountains. They're losing big time. And in verse 11, it says, then they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. So the kings have taken the kingdoms and the soldiers have taken what they want. And they also took Lot, Abram's brother. Some of you will know this is Abraham. His name will be changed later. Abram's brothers. They took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom. It's his nephew, and his goods, and departed. Verse 13, and then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew. So one of the guys that escaped, a beautiful picture of an intercessor, and he went to Abram to tell him, and he said, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre and the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they were allies with Abram. Verse 14, now when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house and went in pursuit as far as Dan. He divided his forces against them by night, and he and his servants attacked them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is north of Damascus. So he brought back all the goods, also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. It's one of those moments when you read this, because Abraham is the guy that continually gets the promise that he's going to have, he's going to be a blessing in all the families of the earth. All the peoples of the earth are going to be blessed through him. And it sounds pretty cool, but then you see Abram here, and he steps up, and he's like in commander role, right? In commander mode. He's assembling these guys, and they're going to go fight, and they get victory, right? Again, winning's pretty sweet. They get victory. And he comes back with Lot, and you can tell Lot is important to Abram. It's his nephew, it's his brother's son. Lot, when the city of Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be judged and destroyed, Abraham is going to God on behalf of Lot, interceding on behalf of Lot because he cares for Lot. When Abram is called out of Ur, the city that he lived in, to leave them and go to a place that God hadn't shown him yet, and God said, leave your family, right or wrong. I think maybe he made a mistake here, but you can see this. He cared for Lot because he took him with him. When he was told to leave his family, he took Lot with him. So there's this in Abram's eyes, there's a certain level of importance on Lot that's a pretty big deal. And when he gets word that Lot has been taken captive, he gets his men together, and they go to get Lot. And I want to dwell on this because I believe it provides us of a parallel picture to what we see in the quiet place. Abram does this. He has no hesitation when he is approached. When he's approached by this one that escaped, he has no hesitation in going after Lot. I know it's dramatic effect, and I know movies, and I know what they're doing. fact, as you sat here and you heard the music to the movie, you knew something was coming, didn't you? You didn't know when it's coming, but the way they did that weird kind of music, you're like, something's getting ready to happen. Yeah. And so, but here's what they do. They do this little bit of a dramatic pause. The dad, John, is running, and then he hears it, and then he stops, and then it's like slow motion, he turns around. And I'm like, if you know those things are out there, again, I know it's dramatic effect. But I'm like, run, man. As soon as you hear that, don't hesitate. Don't think about it. Don't pause so that we can get pulled into it. Run. Run as hard as you can. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. And one of the things that I see about Abram is you don't see any hesitation here. He doesn't weigh out the cost. Okay, if I take and leave here and take 318 guys and we go up against a very skilled army, against kings that know how to fight, against kings that subdue other kingdoms and collect tax and toll from them, that if I go after them, I could lose everything. He doesn't weigh out the cost. He doesn't sit there and try to figure out, should I do this or not do this? He does it. No hesitation. No hesitation. And I want to tell you this morning that many times this is where we lose the things that are important in our life is we hesitate with them. We hesitate. So your marriage, your parenting, the purpose that you have for your life, your spiritual relationship, I'm just telling you today, don't hesitate. There can't be any hesitation in giving yourself to the things that are important in your life. And what we'll do is, and I pointed out that sometimes we let what's before us steal our focus. Charles Hummel in his publication, The Tyranny of the Urgent, he said, your greatest danger is letting the urgent things crowd out the important. There is an insidious tendency to neglect important tasks that do not have to be done today or even this week. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and if you look at the life of Jesus, you see Jesus, he has a focus on what's important. I mean, there's other things that are urgent all around him. There's always stuff urgent around him. But he's got his focus on the important. And so then when he's found in the temple, in Luke chapter 2, the first words that are written, that are recorded that he said, that we can read, he says this, Mary and Joseph have lost Jesus. That's a bad day, right? And so they find him, and Jesus says, don't you know that I must be about my Father's business? Right? I'm on a mission here. I'm on a mission. In fact, over and over again, we hear him say in the Gospels, my meat, in John chapter 4, my meat is to do the will of him who sent me. Other places he said, I must be about my Father's business. I must do the will of my Father. I must do the will of him who sent me. Until the final words that we read on the cross, he says this, it is finished. What's finished? The purpose, the mission that Jesus was on this planet for. His laser precision focus on the important, not just the urgent. And there's times when you read about Jesus and he kind of delays or hesitates. I remember the story of Lazarus. It's like, he gets there and Lazarus' sisters are like Jesus. Like if you just got here a little, I'm paraphrasing big time, right? Like, Jesus, if you'd got here a little earlier, our brother wouldn't have died. Now he's been dead and his body stinks. I mean, Jesus, you waited too long. Jesus wasn't tripped up by the urgency, what appeared to be urgent. He understood the important. We know the name of Lazarus because Jesus raised him from the dead. Are you with me? Many people came to the faith, came to faith in Christ because Lazarus was resurrected. Jesus understood the important. And for all of us, we deal with the important and the urgent. Stephen Covey, his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, in his book, The First Things First, he offers this matrix, and you can go online and Google this week, of the important and the urgent versus the non-important and non-urgent, right? So we have important, urgent events. Hopefully we don't have a whole lot of them, but we have them in life, right? give you one. Somebody in your house screams, and you run to it, right? If it's my daughter, it'd be a spider. And I just grab it and crush it and throw it away, you know. Spiders don't bother me at all. But for her, she freaks out. I remember many years ago, my daughter was about 8 or 9, 8, 7, somewhere in there. Kim might correct me, but it was 4th of July, and a friend of ours, one of the young adults in our church, was house sitting for someone with an in-ground pool, and she invited us to come over. Her friend told her they could do that, and so she could invite people over. So we went over there, and I dropped Kim and Sam off and went to go do something, to pick some things up. And then this is back when cell phones were really new. This is how old I am. We called them car phones for a long time when they were first new. Anybody with me? Got my car phone. I guess you could only use it in the car. I don't know. And I get the call, and Kim says, hurry. I can't remember the whole words. I don't think she gave me the whole in detail. Something's happened to Sam. I pulled in the driveway, and they had these 2 huge, great Pyrenees, St. Bernard-looking dogs. You know what people say about dogs. Don't worry about our dogs. Our dogs are okay. Sam had bent down, and when she did, one of the dogs grabbed her here in the eye and down here. So when I pulled in the driveway, they were on the driveway standing, and her face was hanging. I'm telling you, even though I don't like those crazy dogs, I didn't ask all the details about that. I didn't get caught up in do we put a Band-Aid on it, or what do we do here? Get in the car, and we went straight to the ER because it was urgent. It was important. Are you with me? So we have that stuff in life. And when that happens, it gets your full attention. Are you with me? Yeah. But then there's other stuff in life. And I think sometimes this is where the hesitation happens. We start trying to place, where's this land in my life? So some things in our life that is, let's do this first. Not important and not urgent, right? So I'll speak to men. I can speak to men better. Clean out your garage. Not important, not urgent. It may be urgent for your wife, by the way. Yeah. But not important, not urgent, right? So we're not in it'll get done someday. We'll do that. It's not today. When it's nice and warm out, we'll do it, right? When it's nice and warm and there's something else that's right. And then there's the non-urgent, non-important. Then there's the urgent but not important. This is where we lose it a lot of times. Urgent but not important. There we go. Somebody text me. I don't know who would text me while I'm in church. They know what I do. Somebody text me. I didn't look at it. By the way, because my mind works this way, I did read it when I picked it up. I didn't mean to. I was trying not to. But here's what we can do. Maybe when you're driving, maybe nobody has to confess. But that thing, bzzz, what do we do? If we're not careful. Now, what's important at that moment? Not what's on there, what's in front of us, right? 10 and 2, or however you do it, if you're cool, you're like, what? I try to do 10 and 2, but I slide into this too much. So important is doing that. But what seems to be urgent but is unimportant, because 5 minutes is probably not going to make a big deal if somebody told me how many we had. I'll tell you, if somebody told me how many we had in Avon today. So, thank you. But let me know that. So they're trying to help me. Okay. But that wasn't urgent, because in 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I'll find that out, right? But that message, that text, that call, it could wait till you stop. But if we're not careful, we get pulled into that. Somebody offers you free tickets to the game. I mean, free tickets to the game is pretty nice, right? Okay, if you don't want them, give them to me. I'll take free tickets to the game. So Sunday morning, the game starts, 1:30, 10 after 1, something like that. And And then what you do is, because in the moment it seems so important to you, it's urgent. Maybe there's some importance, right? But we shift everything. We shift everything. We get up early. We're all pumped. Sunday's coming, but we plan and we lose. I think this is important. Anybody agree with me? What we're doing right now is important. But what we do is we give it a back seat. And that's that final one, the idea that there are some things that are not urgent, but they're important. This is one of those things, right? It's important. We gather on Sunday morning. In fact, so important that the writer in Hebrews said, let's not forsake, right, the assembling of ourselves together as some have. So what we can do is we can shift our focus onto what's urgent and important and what's just urgent when there's some things that are so important. Listen, your 14-year-old may not come in and say, Dad, Mom, I want to spend some time together today, some quality time. But it's important that you do it. Right? Your spouse may not cry out to you, hey, I just want to go on a date. I want to go on a date with you. I want to go on a date with you. And I tell people, and I'm jumping ahead. Let's jump ahead real quick together. So next steps. Today, right after this service, we start next steps. First step one. And for some of you, here's what we do. It's important, but it's not urgent. We're not gonna lasso you as you go out the door and say, hey, you haven't been through next steps yet. Get in there. Right? Like getting in the Word, spending time in the Word. I tell people, I'm working on, what I'm talking about now, I'm working on an invention, okay? An invention that will be an alarm, so that every morning when you get up in the morning, it'll go off, and it'll make you open this, and it'll say, open me, open me, open me, until you open it. That's just the first step. The second step is that if you don't open it by a certain series of opens, that it has this line that it will shoot out and hook your ankle so you can't go out the door, so that it'll make sure you get it. No, your Bible is not screaming at you, open me. Right? It's not screaming, I'm urgent, I'm urgent, I'm urgent. But I want to tell you, it does scream important. And if we're not careful, we won't include it. We won't include those times that we spend with God. We won't, some of you've been through maybe next steps 2 or 4 or whatever, but you never through 1. And so you could easily, I'll wait till the first of the year. We'll hesitate. So Abram doesn't hesitate. Secondly, I call it full preparation. Life is about preparation. Your life is preparation. That there is stuff that's coming that you haven't encountered yet that you need to be prepared for. Check out Abram. He is this like nomadic sheep herder, livestock raiser kind of guy, right? And no doubt the servants he has would have a staff. They would know how to call animals. They know how to milk the goats and all that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden, he says, okay, I've got 318 trained guys. They're trained. Okay, again, they might know how to milk goats or sheep, but they also know how to use a weapon. This isn't some 2-bit militia that somebody's put together that he's going to go fight. These are dominating kingdoms, and he's going to get 318 guys, and they already know how to use the weapons. They're armed, they're trained, and they know the DNA and the culture of the leader. And Abram goes into attack mode, and he gets victory because they were prepared when the situation came about. And for all of us, we need to understand this is preparation time. I like to think, I say this every so often, but when we get to heaven, when we have worship gatherings like we do here, we're preparing for heaven. People tell me, I got to hurry too, but I'm going to spend a moment here. Sometimes people tell me, well, I really like the preaching part, but I don't like the worship part. I'm like, dude, because it's usually a guy that says something like that. When you get to heaven, you're going to be like totally lost. Because John says in Revelation, he sees a man that no man can number, and they're hanging out around in front of the throne, and it's loud, by the way, too. And people say, I don't like it loud. It's loud. Isaiah 6 says it's so loud that the pillars in there are moving because the bass is so thunderous. That's my interpretation, by the way. It's loud. It is loud. That, you say, well, I don't like the colored lights. The throne room is full of that. In fact, it says that the throne is encircled completely. When by a bow, we see a rainbow, we see like just a half of it, right? They say if you go high enough up, you can see the full bow. That'd be beautiful to see, wouldn't it? And so they say that the throne is encircled by a bow, and it's emerald green. John says, like unto an emerald. So it's this brilliant, glowing green. I don't know what color they got behind me, but I'm just saying, we're preparing for heaven, right? You're preparing right now for the thing that you've not encountered yet. And so here's the thing, I must be prepared. Abram was prepared. When I look at this movie, it looks like that his preparation was, I need to run. I need to run. She likes my preaching, doesn't she? I need to run, and that was it. It wasn't like, okay, how are we going to stand in line? How do we prepare for this? There's these crazy creatures that will grab you if they hear you. How do we prepare best for this? There was no preparation. And then the other thing, it says this, that Abram and his team pursued them as far as Dan. Dan's not close. It's a distance. It's the idea that, you know what? We're all in. We're all in. 318 of us. We're going to go up there. This is a big battle. We may lose. We're not worried about that. We're all in. We're going all the way. We're going to get what's important. And it's complete pursuit. Complete pursuit. And that means for all of us that we're all into our relationship with Jesus. That we're all into the idea that God has entrusted people into your life that should get your attention and should have your focus. I like to think of that old song, I surrender all to Jesus. I surrender. That I'm in this completely and I'm pursuing Him completely, because if I want to be the best husband, or if you want to be the best wife, or if you want to be the best parent, or if you want to be the best Jesus follower, it's the idea that you surrender and go all in for Jesus, and that's how it's accomplished. Complete pursuit. And the other thing that I see here that produces victory is Abram has a strategy. There's a strategy. It says this, that it's a military strategy, that he splits them up and they go two different directions. They didn't just hit them head on and try to just trade blows and spears. He had this strategy, and it was intentional so that he could experience victory. And I would say for every one of us, we got to stop, think about, what is your strategy right now? What is your strategy? See, if you don't put a strategy in place, you know the old saying is that if you fail at a plan, you plan to fail. If you don't put the strategy in place, then you'll just kind of be haphazard about it, right? So I tell people, I don't know what it looks like for you. Maybe it's on a digital device. I like the old school kind of Bible, but it's planning that I'm going to. Maybe you can get all kinds of plans. You can read the Bible through in a year. You can read the New Testament through in 3 months. You can read the Bible through in 3 months. There's all kinds of plans. Don't do this kind of like, okay, I'm going to read in Proverbs today, and then tomorrow I'm going to read in Leviticus, and the next day I'm going to read in Revelation. You're like, just wherever you open it, get a strategy. Get a strategy. And sometimes your Bible falls open and it's planned. God's going to speak to you through it. I'm saying get a plan, because you need to have a plan in place. Get a plan and put it on your calendar if you need to. Put it on your calendar. I'm going to do this and this and this. And then start doing it. Do it. Create these habits in your life so much that when you start doing that, it becomes so routine. Anybody ever do this? First thing you do in the morning is you walk in and flip a shower on? Anybody ever do the thing where first thing you do is you hit the coffee? I'm like in your living room right now, okay? Let the first thing that you do be, these are the spiritual disciplines in my life, and it becomes so routine that I jump in. I don't have to think about, okay, did I read the Bible? No, I do that every day, right? I don't think about, you don't have to think about, did I pray today? No, I'm praying every day. Yeah, intentional strategy. The idea of, and sometimes it's sitting down with your spouse or sitting down with your family and saying, hey, going forward, we're going to do this. Right? I talked about sitting down with yourself, okay? Do that. Stop, think, reflect, where are you at? And sometimes you need to do it with those in your life that you care about and you love. And so you sit down and say, hey, husbands, let me speak to you, okay? You say, hey, baby, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on a date night. I'm going to plan it. You don't have to. We're not going to get in the car and say, what do you want to get? That's not a date night, right? Where you want to go? No, I don't want that. They named 10 places. Yeah. Put it on the calendar and make it important. If it's important, treat it like it's important. It's the idea of sitting down with your family and saying, hey, guys, from now on, we're going to do this. Maybe it's having a family devotion or a family prayer time, or lead into that and make it happen. Intentional. Be intentional about it. Because what it will produce is, and we love the end. Here's the deal. I love the ending of Abram and his story that I just gave you better than I do the Hollywood-produced Quiet Place. That's a scene. I'm talking about the scene, not the ending. I don't think I care for the ending either, but anyways. Here's what I want you to know. I love it because they win. Sweet victory. God's desire for you is that you win at a relationship with him, that you win at the people he's entrusted in your life, so that when you look around, it's not, oh my, the thing that's important to me is being threatened and I may lose it. Instead, it's, we're all here, we're all safe, because we've made a priority of the important things in our life. So I'm going to ask the team to come. And I'd ask you if you'd stand for a moment. It's so easy. It's so easy to get distracted, to get our focus on things that are unimportant, to get our focus on the thing that seems so urgent. Some of you right now, what you're struggling with in life, what you need to do today, right? I said earlier that it's possible to wait too long and lose the thing that's important in our life, but it's also possible to act right now, take action right now and make a difference. And for many of you this morning, what you have to do is you have to make that change. The word repent means this: change directions. So the idea of changing directions is I'm looking at my life and I see where the things that are important are slipping away. It's repenting and changing directions and saying, today forward, I can do something about that, right? Here's what Jesus does. He makes all things new. So the stuff in my life that I failed at, the stuff in my life that I've fell short of and not accomplished, and the stuff in all of our lives that we tend to not be on task about making sure that it happens, he'll just take that stuff and move us beyond that. And it's not guilt and shame. It's the idea of, what do I do today? The thing you need to do, some of you need to do today, is you need to act right now. And in doing this, get your focus on the important. Some of you got some urgent, important things going on, and you got to give your attention to them. But most of us today have got important things that are not urgent, that we got to spend some time. So that one day we don't wake up and say, what happened? What happened to that person in my life? How did they get there? Or we wake up one day and we realize, my son or daughter, how did they shift so much? And believe me, I know we can do all the things we know to do right, and still we run into those things. We run into the dog bites and the spiders and the things that become urgent, important. But I'm talking about right now in my life, in your life, focusing on the important, non-urgent. What does that look like in your life? For some of you, as heads are bowed, for some of you, it's the relationship that you have with Jesus. For some, it may be that you've never made that decision to follow Jesus in your life. You've contemplated it. It's been presented to you, or maybe you're here today and you've never even thought about it, and you just were invited by a friend and you're in this place today. For others of you, you made a decision, and it's not making a decision to follow Christ. It's the idea of walking that out in your life. And you keep on hesitating. You keep on shifting it off, and your focus gets on other things, and then you come back to it. And I'm saying today, the most important relationship that you have in this lifetime is your relationship with Jesus. If you take action now, you can experience that continuing to grow and to flourish in your life. For some of you, it's your marriage. You've just let other things get to focus. You've not treated it. You've taken for granted that relationship. You've not treated it as important and valued. And today you can make the change. There's some single folks in here. Some of it's your purity. You've just been loose with it. And today is a day that you can say, you know what? I'm not going to continue to do that, but I'm going to shift my focus to the important thing in my life that God has blessed me with. For some of you, it's your children. It's your children that God's blessed you with. And at one point, they had all of your attention, and you're so excited and blessed, and now they seem like an invasion on your time. And my challenge to you is to repent of the areas where you've drifted, where you've had shortcomings. Change directions today. Develop that intentional strategy so that you can win. Here's what I want to do. Heads are bowed, eyes are closed. If you just shoot your hand up if you need prayer in one of those areas. I'm not here to embarrass you. I know there's going to be several. There's many. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Father, we thank you this morning, God. God, that you love us. Lord, that there's no coincidences with you. Lord, your word says this, that, Lord, that you cause everything in our life to work out for the good of those that are called. Lord, and right now we just pray, God, for those that have shot their hand in the air, some maybe that didn't even do that. Lord, that our focus, our pursuit of the most important things in our life would be on our radar today. And Lord, help us to have wisdom to flip and change that. God, you can take all the shortcomings and work them out for our good right now. And Lord, we can't do anything about our past, but God, you can give us the future that we need. And I'm praying, Lord, that you'd work in that in people's lives today. And God, we ask it in Jesus' name. They're going to do this last song. And I just invite you, if you raised your hand, or maybe you didn't, but we're going to have a time. You can pray at your seat, but there's people that'll pray with you if you desire that. You can come forward and stand. There's hope. Maybe you're dealing with a situation that seems hopeless. There's hope for you. There's hope for your future. I believe that because you're taking action today, you've not waited too long, and there's hope for you. God is pursuing you. His word says this, draw near to him and he'll draw near to you. He wants that relationship with you. All you have to do is make the step to draw near. Again, this altar's open as they do this last song.
For I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, right till I'm found, clean couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Well, we're going to continue this At the Movies series next week. We've made these invite tickets that you can grab out in the lobby, and if you have somebody that you think this may be helpful for them, use this to invite them. Maybe see you back tonight for the treasure hunt. If not, we only have one Wednesday night service each month, and it's coming up this Wednesday. It's a time for us to have extended time of worship, share the Lord's table together. And so this Wednesday at 6:30, 7, sorry. Even if you didn't sign up for Next Steps, this is our way of inviting you into the life of the church, get to know about who we are and some of our history, and meet some other people. And so even if you didn't sign up for that, you're welcome to join that. We provide lunch, have childcare available. And thank you if this is your first time here. Hopefully this was a meaningful morning for you. And if you want to take your communication card to the VIP table, like I mentioned at the transition, we have a gift that we'd love to give you. Thanks for being here. Have a great week.